Sounds like Europe. Cross-border podcasting.
Hello and welcome to Sounds Like Europe, Cross-Border Podcasting, a project brought to you by WePod. I am your host, Javi Caminero. In a project as ambitious and big as WePod, producing good podcasts, telling compelling stories and creating tools that improve the podcast industry in Europe is very important. But for all of that to happen, proper project management is essential. All those aspects of WePod that I usually talk about in this podcast need to be well managed. That's the only way we can make sure they work as we want and as the podcast industry needs. There are a lot of people working to make sure that WePod's goals are met in the best possible way, and all of those goals depend on the executive production of this project. To learn about that part of management that means so much to our work, today I am with Ana Ribera, WePod's executive producer. Hola Ana, how are you?
Hi, how are you, Javi?
Before we talk about WePod's goals and current state, I want to take you back to 2022, 2023, more or less. That's where WePod's idea was born. How did this idea come about, and why was WePod founded on the first place?
So in Prisa, we started working in the idea of WePod in 2022. I think that it was spring, surely before summer. And my colleague Pablo Fernández del Cader, which now doesn't work in Prisa, but he was in charge of this. He was contacted by Marta Perrota from Universitat Roma III about this creative call for journalistic collaboration. So they start to work, Marta Perrota and Pablo, with Alex Ricci, who has been also in this podcast several times, to work in this idea. I was involved in some of the meetings, especially in the ones regarding co-production, because my role was more like an editorial role. But they work together in the preparation of this call, which is a very tedious and very complicated process, I can assure you. And then we presented in November 2022, and we just rest waiting for the results. So we were working, and the idea, the call was for collaborative journalists. We think in doing something about podcasting in Europe because, as you have talked in these several episodes of this podcast, the European podcasting industry and environment is really disconnected from one country to another. So the idea was with WePod doing the collaborations, doing the co-production, but also the main idea was to bring together the industry and the professionals working in it.
After November 2022, many months later, the resolution came out and it said that you had been awarded the project. So what was your reaction that time?
Well, I remember that my colleague Pablo sent me a WhatsApp with a document, and I didn't open it just as it came into my inbox, but I thought it was something else. But then he called me and said, we win, this is the resolution. So I opened the document, and the document was really positive. They give us really high validation in everything, in the idea, in the execution, in the consortium and everything. So I was really happy for us, and then I think that I have a panic attack when I realized how much work was coming into our hands, into our tables, and all that we were going to have to manage and to coordinate, and also because it was the first time. So when you are faced with a challenge like that for the first time, managing a consortium of 9 partners, working all your time in English, working with a lot of people that doesn't know you and you don't know them. So for sure I have a little panic attack.
On Sounds Like Europe, we often talk about the podcasts of the WePod project, the different tools, the website as well. But from your point of view, what does it mean to manage a consortium like this with all the partners, with the commission?
So this part is not very romantic, It's not about production, about content. First of all, you have to learn all the bureaucracy and how all the relationships that you are going to have with the European Commission, with your project officer. The one where we have, Dominic, is a really nice guy, so we have very good interactions with them. But you have to learn all the bureaucracy, all the paperwork, all the deliverable, as you say, the things that the producers don't see, but that they are necessary for the project. So I have to be, in contact with the European Commission. We are going to deliver this one. I have to review everything, and then in terms of coordinating all the partners, I think that the most difficult thing is to keep everyone involved. Trying to keep everyone with enthusiasm about the project, not just seeing it as an obligation, but seeing it as an opportunity to know something new, an opportunity to connect with other people working in podcasting across Europe. So keeping that enthusiasm, keeping that push for not letting any partners, falling behind or feeling that they are not really involved in everything. It's one thing, but also you have to try not to be too, not to send them too many emails or being too like a mother, control them. So it's a difficult balance. It's a difficult balance in between keeping them involved and being too controlling. I do my best to try to accomplish that.
And managing WePod, what we have been seeing so far, involves a lot of work, a lot of day-to-day work, but the results take some time to arrive and to be seen by all the partners, by the journalists, by the producers. So taking that into account, what's the most difficult thing you have found so far while managing WePod, and what's the most rewarding thing?
The most difficult thing is to, as I was saying before, to keep all the partners working together and seeing the project not as a project of Prisa, of a project of the big partners, of a project of all of us. Something that we are doing together to be seen by all the European industry. That's the most challenging thing. The most rewarding thing, and now that we are having this conversation, in February, almost March. Which now we are facing the last months of WePod, is that everything is coming, as you said, 2 productions are already out, the remakes are already out, now the 3rd co-production is going out.
It's almost here.
The 2 that are left are really in production and working together. We have been nominated to the Ondas Awards for Mar de Rabia, Mare di Rabia, Sea of Rage. Everyone across Europe knows about WePod, so when I go to some meetings or some industry meetings, I don't have to explain what WePod is, because almost everyone knows about it. So seeing that the work that we have been doing by almost 18 months, it's really rewarding, and also seeing that also another thing that is really rewarding is seeing the interactions that have been built between podcasters, between you and the people of Cora Media or 444 or whatever. So that's rewarding and nice.
The kickoff meeting was held here in Madrid in September 2023. Like 18 months ago now. How has the project evolved since that day, and does it currently resemble or look like what you wanted it to be by now?
So I think that when we start a project in that kickoff meeting, that for me it looks like ages ago, we were really, I think, just as you asked me this question, I was thinking that it's like when that kickoff meeting was like the first day at school, the new new year in the school, and you don't know what you are going to face. You have an idea, because you have friends and you have maybe brothers and sisters that has gone through that course, but you think, well, this course is going to be like this, and when the course is when you pass. it doesn't look exactly the same as you would imagine. It has the things that are better, and things that are worse. So I don't know. I think that the podcasts that we have produced are really good and prove that co-production in audio journalism is possible. Also, the web page and the WePod hub with all the resources and more than that are going to come out in the next weeks has proved as a really good tool for journalistic but there's a lot of work to do left, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm happy with the project. I know that as you work with me, sometimes you see me a little bit grumpy about the project because but
I wouldn't say grumpy. I would say stressed.
Maybe stressed. But I'm happy about it. I'm thrilled about the opportunity to work on it.
And before we end this episode, Ana, I would like to ask you the last two big questions of Sounds Like Europe. I'm sure you have listened to this many times. This is the first time you're going to answer them, though. So, what's your favorite podcast right now?
So I'm going to ask with my favorite podcast in Spanish from 2024, which is called La Casa Grande. It's an independent podcast done by Isabel Coello, a journalist. So it's not from Prisa or from Podium. It's a podcast about abuse inside the family and a couple. It's a very good podcast with really impressive testimony of women. Isabel has followed those women that have been in a special place called La Casa Grande here in Madrid. She had followed them for 18 months, interviewing them and seeing them from the moment they enter the house until the moment they leave. And it's a very good podcast to understand why someone stays in an abusive relationship, which is something that when you are outside from it, you say, why is she staying? No, why doesn't she go away? Because it's not so easy. There's a lot of mental issues, and not mental issues, but mental process and things among the couple and the family that doesn't allow the women to live until the right moment.
Yeah, that's a podcast that is a bit difficult to listen to because it's a fantastic podcast, but it's hard.
It's hard to listen to, but I think
but
that
it's real.
Yeah, and I think that it has to be. It's needed to listen to it.
And the second question: when's your favorite moment to listen to podcasts?
Well, as you know, I'm listening to podcasts every moment since the moment I wake up. Also, as I have a lot of problems sleeping, I can be listening to a podcast at 5 a.m. But my favorite moment to listen to podcasts is driving. I start listening to podcasts when I work in another job, which was 100 kilometers from my house. So every day I listen to. I have 2 hours of 2 hours of driving, and it still is my best moment to listen to. I find it relaxing, and I really can engage in the content and analyze it. So for me, the best moment is driving.
As long as you drive safe while you listen.
I try to.
Ana Ribera, executive producer of the WePod project, thank you for joining me in this episode of Sounds Like Europe and for showing us how you manage the WePod project as a whole.
Thank you, Javi. It has been a pleasure.
And to everyone listening to this interview, I've been your host, Javi Caminero. Thank you for doing so, and I will be back with another interview in a couple weeks. Bye.
Sounds Like Europe, Cross-Border Podcasting is a WePod podcast funded by the Creative Europe programme. Hosted and written by Javi Caminero, sound design by Manu Tomillo, coordinator Alexander Damiano Ricci, executive producer Ana Ribera.